Yes, my name is Paige Justice. I am an English professor at Mount West, and I also write Appalachia nonfiction.
My name is Peregrine Lloyd, he, they pronouns. I was born and raised here in West Virginia. I would probably consider myself being from Huntington, even though I'm technically from Charleston, because this community made me.
I'm Brenna. I just graduated from esthetician school. I'm a cat mom and in a relationship with my non-binary partner.
My name is Jaden Ellison. I go to Marshall and I'm majoring in creative writing and humanities with a philosophy concentration. I like to write. I like to play Nintendo games.
I feel like it's a bit contradictory because I do dress and present more masculine, but I still present as female, which I do identify with she, her. If Appalachia were more accepting, I would probably openly identify as she, they. So that does impact it a little bit.
I would say, first and foremost, I identify as a queer person.
Sexuality, I would define myself as queer. And gender-wise, I would describe myself as non-binary.
So do you use they, them pronouns?
I do use they, them pronouns,
Okay.
but I sort of recently have started doing that because I found that out about myself. So if anybody messes up and says he accidentally, I'm perfectly fine with that because I'm getting used to it as much as everyone else.
My journey began really, really early. I was always a tomboy, basketball shorts, t-shirt, ponytail slicked back every day until I was in the 8th grade at least, and then it was still like 50% of the time then. High school got a little bit better. But I remember I was probably 10 years old. There's like a 6-year age difference with my brother. And when he went to homecoming, he had like the button-up shirt and the tie, and I would, in my room, I would steal it and put it on when I was young because it just made me feel, like, wow, I feel powerful. And I remember when I was in high school, I just always wanted to wear a snapback with a flannel, but I was like, no, that's too obvious. So as I got into college and I started coming to terms with it, but people didn't know, like, I had snapbacks. I would take them to campus with me secretly and put them on. And then I got to the point where I just wanted to be me. I wanted to feel that way all the time. So I found a way to be comfortable with that.
There's never really any, like, one particular thing, one particular event that got me where I was today. I would say, though, if I had to boil it down, I realized I might be bisexual first, and I think I was like 22, like, I had no idea until I was like a full-grown adult, and what it took for me to realize that, and, in retrospect now, I can look back in my life and remember certain things where I go, oh, I was definitely crushing on that girl, or, like, I don't know, like, I was dressing up as a guy, just walking around the neighborhood, like, thinking, oh, this is so much fun. But what really did it for me, I think, was just finally integrating myself socially in a community that is very queer. And I fortunately had a very supportive partner. I'm still with him today, Joe. And he just kind of helped me out, asked, like, okay, like, well, maybe, like, let's try these pronouns, like, I'll try using this verbiage around you, and it kept feeling right, and I just took to the internet and started talking to people and learning about experiences and just trying different, like, feelings, I guess, and, like, learning about, like, bioessentialism and, like, learning to, like, deconstruct these ideas of, like, what it means to have gender outside of sex, and like arming myself with this, like, with the tools to be able to see myself clearly, at which point I just kind of made a bunch of really small decisions. Oh, I want to start HRT. I think I just want to take my titties off. Fuck it. I think I want to do this and that and this, and here I am.
I express my gender through wearing makeup and cute clothes and things like that.
For a long time I was performing in my early life. I was performing, like, stereotypes of man, which means stereotypically like straight man. So I was wearing like polos and stuff like that. Not to laugh at polos, they're great, but like it's not me, not my vibe. And then I sort of like, when I started discovering that I was gay, I was like trying to understand how to perform, because I think when you're performing gender, you're performing it for yourself in a way. You're trying to confirm that for yourself. You're trying to find where you fit in a gender community, in a sexuality community. You're trying to find your comfort within that space. So my way of doing that for a long time was finding and sort of attaching myself to some typical behaviors, typical expressions of gay people. So I would be like really boisterous, really funny and loud. And then I got to a point where pretty recently, I was like, I don't need to do all that, because I don't need to embody that character almost. And while that individual is perfectly fine, it's not who I am, and that's not what I need to be. And it took me a while to realize that, because that's the only, when something is in media and it's portrayed in media, that's our understanding of it being accepted. So my understanding of how to be accepted was to fall into those stereotypes of gay men. And then I realized super recently that I was non-binary, and that was a change up. And it's been me trying to understand how I can relate to masculinity and relate to femininity on a level that isn't the becoming of man or woman, but a way that is exploring a side of myself.
I've definitely always felt comfortable with my gender identity as a woman, but coming out was definitely something that was hard for me.
Can you tell me more about that?
I was so close with my family, but scared of what they might think.
Okay, so my family had a huge impact on my gender and sexuality. My family is very religious, a lot of preachers. I was at youth group. Every time you could be at church, I was in the doors. And I remember whenever I was like 14, there was a boy a few years older than me. When we went to church camp, it was one of those, you look at him and you're like, he's gay, because it's all we knew, So, but my aunt was like, no, we're like, we love him no matter what. And she took him in and he started coming to our youth group. He was like a part of our family, came to real family events with us. And then he stopped coming to youth group, and I was really confused. And then I found out that my uncle had pushed him away from the church, told him he was no longer welcome there. So then I was kind of like, oh, well, that's what's going to happen to me, if I come out. So for a long time, I hated myself. I hated Appalachia. I wanted to leave here the minute I could, until I realized I couldn't. I didn't have the finances to do that, so I was just here, and I hated myself every day. I didn't care if I lived or died over it. I knew it would be better than coming out to my family, was the way I saw it. And then I dyed my hair brown for the first time ever. I just did it, and then my mom dragged me out of the closet. Someone had sent her pictures of my first girlfriend and I at the time, and she just dragged me out of the closet. So from that point on, it was hard for a few months, but that's when I started to like really get confident in myself, and well, if they know, I'm gonna at least present the way I want to and live the way I want to.
I want to talk about gender and sexuality in Appalachia and the ideas that people have about gender and sexuality in Appalachia, because it's pretty widely believed that Appalachia is not a very queer space, and that like big urban centers like New York, San Francisco, that's where all the gay people are. And if that's not where they are, that's where they want to be. Appalachia is very queer. It is very queer. And I say that literally, but also figuratively too.
I don't think we're quite there. I think there's definitely a lot of work to do as far as acceptance and love for the community, really, more than just, being okay with it.
I would probably say we are one of the most uneducated on anything to do with that. In my writing, that's one thing I've explored a lot. With my mother, I was really upset when she couldn't accept me, and it took her so long to accept me. But in all of that time, I realized she's only a product of the culture she was raised in, and they didn't know any better. So I think the education and the resistance of people, queer people in this area, to show that we're here and we're not going to let you run us away, I think that's really important.
There are a lot of people out there who might not know all the pronouns or all the words or all the right things to say, all those those words that the politically correct words. I don't want to say politically correct, so I don't want people to think I'm a QAnon person. But yeah, because you only hear whatever. Okay. So there are a lot of people here that may not understand all of it, but if you tell them hey, this person's being, a little queerphobic, they'll stick up for you. Now, there's a lot of people who think we should burn in hell and get shot by a firing squad, but there's also a lot of people who are just here for it. And I think that there's this misconception that being evolved means knowing all the right words to say and knowing and participating in the discourse and knowing all the just the proper terminology and verbiage to use. And I think we get really caught up in that. Whereas what's almost more important is the actions that you take in defending people and validating people. I've known, this is just my experience, I've known plenty of people who are I don't know anything about pronouns, but if you ever have somebody that tells you all that transphobic stuff, blah, 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 you tell me and I'll bust their ass, that sort of thing. That's that's enough for me. Cool. There's a lot of that. And I think that just because there's not this academic air in this area about queer discourse, it means it's not evolved. I think that's virtue signaling to a point.
When handling transphobia, whether it's my partner being attacked or a complete stranger, I just try to make the transgender person feel as comfortable and safe as possible.
I write about it a lot, and I think that connects to a larger idea of creative outlets really being the source of a lot of queer people's reactions to homophobia. I think that it's taught for people in Appalachia, but often for queer people in Appalachia, othered people in Appalachia, to not respond to something that's homophobic or something that's racist, anything that is offensive to someone's identity. They're often taught, the receiver of that is often taught to not respond to that and to just take it as it is. But that literally eats away at people. So there has to be a way for people to really find a place to voice their frustrations with that and to voice their sadness and their just any emotion they feel in regards to those experiences. So I think creative outlets are really important, and for me it just happens.
Because if you're talking to the wrong people, you don't know the kind of right reaction you're going to get. If it's negative, it could lead to physical violence around here. So if it's people who I know, I definitely try to educate them. Even people I don't know, if they're doing it not in a very aggressive way at the moment, try to talk it through and be like, well, that's your opinion, but there is all of this that actually happens on the day-to-day.
What is your advice to those who struggle to take that step with gender identity?
I say to trust your support system and do what makes you most safe and comfortable.
I know a lot of people are afraid about losing their family, but sometimes they just need time to get over it. But whenever you do come out, you are comfortable talking to other people who are queer and who identify like you, and you find your own family in that, and it's beautiful. So never be afraid that you're going to be alone, because you're not.
When I connect to people of the same perspective, it's easy because I don't have to shift their worldview to match mine. I don't have to shift their worldview to understand mine. They are naturally of that worldview, so it's really easy for me to just exist with them, and I don't think it's necessarily as easy to exist with people who aren't of that same perspective.
Like, it's like there's these preconceptions that, oh, gay means urban. No, like, there is a very strong, like, queer rural population that not only is accepting of themselves, but, like, identifies strongly with being queer and Appalachian. It is a very amazing thing, honestly.